they get that from? They got that from me. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, God. What am I doing? And so they hold up a mirror in a way like, ooh, I know you got that from me, baby.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't be mad because they're living out aspects of our personality. And we think we're slick, that we can, hide a little stuff, but they will pick up on it and they will amplify it right back to us. I'm like, okay, because I'm not breathing life into it anymore. And I think when we create those boundaries, we have to be patient with people because they're going to hear and not hear.
Welcome to the Black and Green podcast. It's your go-to place to find the latest high-quality, all-natural products created by Black artisans. Hosted by yours truly, Dr. Kristian H., the founder of Black and Green. We'll discuss all things health, wellness, self-care, and of course, self-love. This podcast features a refreshing lineup of guests, from entrepreneurs and artisans to holistic lifestylists and clean beauty experts, and a plethora of other innovators within the wellness industry. Join me as we learn from the best of the best. Thank you so much for joining me here today and being on my podcast. Thank you. So I want to start our conversation of understanding what led you to start Spiritual Essence Yoga. What is it and what led you to do it?
I'll start with what is it? It's a safe haven. It is a loving community. It is a space where you can learn self-acceptance, self-love, balance through the lens of yoga, mindfulness, and meditation. And what inspired me to start Spiritual Essence Yoga and Wellness was my daughter, Brooke. I was blessed to have a little girl, and I know all of the things that I put my mom through, and I knew all of the things, all the tools that my mom did not have at the time in order to raise me in a way that I can step into my healing. So I love my mom, and I always said she did the best that she could with the tools that she had. So I took it upon myself to say, well, I need to do better. So I started praying, and I didn't know it was meditation at the time. I started taking quiet moments like, how can I be the best person possible for this little girl? And while I was still pregnant, I was introduced to yoga, and I thought it was just going to be my thing. I was just going to do that, get through postpartum, get my body back. But what happened was amazing. I found that I felt really good. That stress did not have to be something that I accepted. And I wanted people in my community to find that for themselves. So I went on a mission. And the name came about a year after I had found yoga and I started to share it. Because yoga is a lot of things, and I think people generally get into yoga for the physical aspect. But it is that spiritual aspect, that spiritual essence of yoga that keeps you in the practice, that keeps you growing, that keeps you glowing. And I want anyone that comes to the studio to understand that, yes, you're going to get asana, but you're going to get so much more.
Yes, I love that. I know for me, going to yoga class allows me to center my brain in a way that I can't anywhere else. But a question that just popped up for me is a couple of sessions ago, me and my therapist were talking. She looks at me and she says, "You're going to have to stop doing yoga." I said, "Tell me more." She said, it's like a religion. I said, no, it's not. I said, I just wrote an article that yoga and Christianity don't work against each other. Like yoga is not a religion. And she felt very strongly that they were. I'm curious, have you heard this? And what's your response when people give you that kind of resistance?
So it's interesting. I was the first Black-owned yoga studio in Prince George's County. And I had to have this conversation a lot. So I had the conversation not from the standpoint of I wanted to defend the art, the science of yoga. I had the conversation because I wanted to educate people that yoga is simply a system, a tool to pull our pieces back together, to become one. And once you become one, so yoga means huge or to unite. Once your mind, your body, and your spirit realign, you can deepen your relationship with divine source, with energy. I call that energy God. A religion gives you bylaws and things that you have to follow. Religion gives you guidelines on how you have to worship. Yoga gives you options to get deeper into who you are, no matter what you believe or you don't believe in. Yoga has no dogma. While there are different traditions of yoga, and as different traditions wrap the practice into their cultural beliefs, so Hinduism, Buddhism, they'll have practices. And the lineage of yoga that I practice comes from the Indian tradition. But the great thing is, we don't have to adopt the religious aspects of it, because yoga in and of itself, it's a system. It doesn't tell you how to worship, it tells you how to be, so that when you do worship, you're more connected to it. And I always ask those people, I said, have you actually practiced? Like, you have a concept of the devil. And if we understand what the devil does in one's life, the devil takes, the devil punishes, the devil keeps us in a very low vibrational place. Yoga lifts, yoga excites, yoga heals. So how can that be anything but what I believe is the creator? So we have to expand our mind. What happens is when people see you changing, they think it must be like some witchcraft or something going on. But that change is your right, because we all deserve to live this life happy, healthy, and free. And that is what I believe the divine's wish for us, the blessing on being on this planet. We, we do other things. That the creator is a forgiving creator. So, we all have to have different tools that speak to us. I respect those that don't do yoga. But for those that don't do yoga and want to judge it, I ask, just please do your research. You will get what you Google. So if you're Googling the standpoint that yoga is a religion and it's evil and demonic, you won't find it. But if you instead...
Ooh, I love that. You'll get what you Google.
You will get what you Google. So understanding the precepts, understanding the process, like what are you doing? And yoga believes that you must move your body, asana. You must move your breath, pranayama. And then it takes us to these higher practices through the lens of meditation to samadhi, which is union with divine source. And that could be your inner divine. That could be the question of, is there a divine? It could be the science of the divine. It doesn't matter. There's something bigger than this. There's something bigger than our stress. So, yeah.
So what religion do you practice?
I am open. I was raised Christian, AME Zion. I still go to church when I go to South Carolina with my mama. And I've got friends of the Baptist faith. But what I do is I don't label myself, because I feel like labeling myself will limit myself. So I can go to church with people on Sunday. I can go to mosque. I can go to temple, and I can find and feel God in all things. But I just choose not to label myself, because society has a lot of labels for us.
Tons.
So I'm choosing to be open to how God moves me in my life. So I'm just not labeling myself. And people might say, oh, you need something. I feel good. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And that's how I approach it. So you can invite me to church. I'll go.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Me and my husband we're in the middle of this conversation of trying to figure out what religion's going to feel like for us. Because he grew up as a PK. He's a preacher's kid, so he
Mm-hmm.
grew up going to the church religiously, and feeling and having separation. Like, it didn't really feel like his. It was like he was constantly doing this work and his duty for it. I'm developing more of a belief that every religion is right in a way, that you have, depending on your culture, depending on where you are taught a practice of how to worship and praise, and so that's what you do. But because you were taught something different than someone else, it doesn't mean that the way that they were taught is wrong. You have developed a different a way of getting the same place. And so we're in the search of trying to find an environment that that uplifts, that uplifts women, that uplifts children, that is acceptance of our duality and the fact that
Yes.
our diversity. So we're looking for it. Once I find it, I'm gonna invite you.
Yeah, and here's the thing that you may find that in several different places of several different cultural backgrounds. You may find that. I love to travel all over the world, and I love to go into those places where they worship and feel the energy of that worship, of the song, of the prayer. And that's why I said, I am a child of the Creator, and I will go wherever the Creator leads me. So it is definitely look and seek, but the gift is not finding that endpoint. The gift is in the
Ooh,
journey. It's in the journey.
ooh, 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 ooh. I feel like you taught me a lesson I'm trying to teach my son all the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach him that all the time. I said, baby, it's not about where you get, it's that how do you enjoy the process of getting there?
Yes,
It's enjoying
yes,
that. And
yes.
his little 5-year-old brain is having a hard time. Like, mommy, I was like, baby, it's a process. Do you enjoy it? Because, for example, I put him in the sport. He wasn't doing a good job at it. He wasn't winning it, so he was getting frustrated. I said, but did you enjoy playing? Did you enjoy playing? Because that's why mommy put you in there, not to win, but to enjoy playing.
Yes, yes.
And
And the beautiful thing about our children, so I have three children. I have a 22-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a soon to be 8-year-old. I've had a child in every decade of my life, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, adult decade. And I find that what you're doing with your son is amazing because even if he doesn't get it, you have planted a beautiful seed so that as he grows and his mind expands and his understanding expands, he's going to reference what you taught him. Because I see my 22-year-old, it took her a little while. So she went all the way around the mulberry bush and she came. She came. There's nothing greater for a parent to have their child come back and say, you know what, Ma? You were right. Like, you were right. You were right. But she's always been a beautiful soul. But I see this with my 13-year-old that at this stage where they say that, boys and teenagers start to get a little grumpy, I've had so many conversations with him about like emotions. I said, don't bully someone with your emotions. Have your emotions, feel your emotions, run them through. Know that no one can make you feel anyway. You have to process what's happening as a feeling. If you want to cry, go ahead and cry and understand it. So now as I watch him, he'll take a moment and he'll do a little meditation and try to figure it out. Like they have these little games they play, Minecraft or something. There's too much going on. I don't know what it is. And I hear his friends are like all frustrated, like, man, I can't do that. He's like, it's okay. Let's just have fun. And I'm like, they do listen. So never think that they're not listening. They're always listening. Always listening.
I often say with my kids is they checked me more than anything else could because what they're doing is they're mimicking everything I do.
That's right.
So when I see bad behavior show up with them, I say, "Ooh, where they get that from? They got that from me. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh my God, what am I
Mm-hmm.
doing?" And so they hold up a mirror in a way like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, I know you got that from me, baby. I
Yeah.
know you did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry."
Yeah. And it's like, I can't be mad because they're living out aspects of our personality. And we think we're slick, that we can, hide a little stuff, but they
Uh-huh.
will pick up on it and they will amplify it right back to us. I'm like, okay, okay, you got that from me. That's fine.
And the interesting thing about it is I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a studious person. I would love to read a book on telling you parenting 101. I would pick it up right away, but it does not exist. It does not exist. And so I'm learning that parenting requires me to be the best me and then
Exactly.
and trust my intuition, and then I'll be guided in how to best parent. I don't need a book. I need me to be balanced so I can be the best parent.
That's right. And then also with that is understanding that your child is a whole human being, that we cannot diminish their experience, their emotions, their feelings, that we must be open to listening to them and being mindful of the things that we're taking as disrespect. So we cannot empower them to use their voice and then get mad when they are using their voice with us. Now, this doesn't say they come and roll their eyes and all that foolishness, but it means that we listen to understand them, because I'm sure that we're about close in the same generation of, what you got to be stressed about. You don't have no bills. There's much more than just bills to stress you out. So as you are in allowing your children to see you navigating the fluctuations, not trying to be like that perfect mommy, because perfection is a myth. Just saying, you know what? I'm tired right now and I really don't have the energy to engage. That teaches them balance instead of that disease of people pleasing. So whenever I'm withdrawing, I'm telling them, like, family, I love you, but I am overwhelmed. It's a lot going on, so I'm going to come into this meditation room. Please don't come in. And sometimes they acknowledge that and sometimes they don't. But the times that they don't, I'm like, remember, mommy needs this time. So I said, I'm not going to react out of my fatigue, but I'm going to make sure that they understand what my boundaries are so that they can in turn have those boundaries with their peers and the people that they have in their life.
I love that. A big piece of that is they understand what your boundaries are because you had to understand what your boundaries are to communicate
Exactly.
those. I feel like
Exactly.
that's such a hard thing to learn. Because we aren't taught
We're
how
not.
to uncover our boundaries. So how did you do it? How did you figure out where your boundaries were?
So I had to suffer like very deep periods of burnout. And it's something where I had to say, it's not something that someone else is doing, it's me. So I do trainings in the studios. I'm a lead trainer. So I would spend 9-hour days with people and then come in and then wanting to be fully present for my family. And I realized that I was short circuiting. That while in the professional sense, I can have boundaries, but if there's an expectation of me to be fully present and I have that expectation for myself, then life is about balancing things out. So I've learned, where did I need the balance? So often we write our to-do list based on what the activities are, but we don't look at the energetic and emotional, energy that's going to take to get those things completed. So I got tired of burning out. I got tired of being cranky, and then I would get like I deal with asthma, so I would have like these respiratory issues. And I said, because the heart is about being in balance. So I learned to look at things like, okay, how do I need to be balanced and how can I communicate that ahead of time? So if I'm doing a lot of energy work at the studio, I know that I'm going to need a lot of grounding when I get home. So I'll tell my family, I say, okay, next week after mommy takes like 4 days to reset, we will do all of the things. But I don't have the energy to go outside and run around because it's a lot to what I do. And it's not like I am choosing my work over my children. I'm just giving them a heads up. And I'm understanding where I need to be balanced, because if you understand where you need to be balanced, it's easy to create those boundaries. And I think when we create those boundaries, we have to be patient with people because they're going to hear and not hear. Another thing, I remember my mom and my grandmother saying, don't let me repeat myself. I'm like, the way that the brain is wired, you're going to have to imprint this in my brain. So you're going to need to repeat yourself. So I'll not in a robotic way, but I'll just say it in different ways in this reference. Hey, remember I said, but it's about, day to day, where do you need to feel balanced? And how can you create healthy boundaries around your interactions with people to maintain that balance?
And so it's asking yourself, how can you create boundaries to make sure that you feel the way you need to feel?
Yeah, yeah. And it's sometimes, and I know that you're a giver, you're a space holder, you're a lot of things to a lot of people. And sometimes it is putting those people that do lean on you a little heavier, putting them on notice and saying, hey, I know we normally have our 4 hour Sunday chat, but there's a lot going on in this period and span of life, so we're not going to be able to do that for a little while. But we will catch up. I'll keep you in my heart and in my thoughts, and we'll catch up. So it's about really understanding, and this is a no judgment of people that rely on us, but it's understanding the people that do rely heavily on us to be of support to them, and being very clear and honest with ourselves with how much energy we have to invest in those relationships. And at the times when we have a lot going on, we have to give them notice and hold them to that. I've got a lot of people in my life that I didn't start out as someone that could hold good space. I was like, where did this come from? But now that people know, my family knows, they're looking for that. So I have to say, hey, DND, it's gonna be like this for a week. So please don't try and find me.
Yep, yep, yep. It's interesting. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself. All right, we'll pause for a meditation. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. We're in the middle of an election season. How does that feel to you? How does that hit you?
So for me personally, I believe that this world is fair and balanced, and that the checks and balances will come. And I know that my contribution, me getting out there and doing what I feel is right, it will make a difference no matter what happens. So I know that there's a lot of energy around it, but the way that I'm affected is the people around me that I love, my family, my friends, the people in the studio home, and that I feel fear. I feel their fear and their angst and their nervousness and their sadness about everything going on in the world, and just what comes out, the energy that comes out around elections, which is not necessarily happy, light, and loving. So I am definitely affected by those that feel hopeless and helpless. I choose to be hopeful. I know what my version of right is, and the Creator always has, reconciles no matter what our experience is, no matter who is in office or not. I believe that there is a divine source that's guiding us and allowing us to have experiences that aren't our choice, to show us how strong we are to overcome anything that life can throw at us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes, that does make sense. I'm going to say something, throw us off a little bit. Can you push your camera back just a little bit? Because they might need some more space above your head.
This one?
The one, I can see the one in front. Yeah, that one.
This one? All
So
right.
I just need a little bit more space above your head.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Just making
I'm
sure
like,
this
ooh,
thing
where we
doesn't
go from
stretch
here?
out.
I know, right? Yeah, we're good now. That's interesting. You said something I had never heard. I believe that the world will always be balanced. I b- where did that come from? Why do you feel that way? Talk more to me. I've never heard the perspective that I believe the world will always be balanced.
So here's the thing about balance. Um, for you to understand what love is, you have to understand what hate is. For you to understand what light is, you must understand what darkness is. So whenever there's a period of darkness and negative energy and awful, atrocious things happening in the world, I know that good things have to come on the heels of it. That for every disaster, I know that something is going to come to make it balanced, to bring it back, to make it right. I stay in that way because it is very easy to fall into spaces where you feel helpless, that you feel like a victim, that you're angry. But I know that my anger and like inundating my nervous system with all of the stuff and the images and the videos of what's going on, that is not allowing me to hold the space and be the support of those that are in my community that have a hand in going and changing laws and advocating and marching. So I have to always keep myself in that place of this world will always come to balance. So if you look at 2020, we all know 2020 was intense, and even years after that. There was a lot of loss in 2020. But if you looked at the environment blossomed, it bloomed. There's so many entrepreneurs that 2020 has made that did not realize, oh, I don't have to kill myself at a job. Oh, this little hobby that I have is actually a viable business idea. So there's always a reconciliation that if you're experiencing horrible, negative things, if you can keep faith, if you can find just a small shred of faith, know that things will get better because that is what this world does. So when we get sick, we think, oh man, I'm sick because, somebody coughed on me because it's, all these germs out here. But if you look at what you were doing before you got sick, a lot of us are doing too much work. And the body's like, let me take you down so that you can recover. And then when you recover, you're rested. You're a little bit more clear. So it is. So we have to, I say, consider seeing that this world is always going to be moving towards balance. That in order for us to understand what we want, we have to experience what we don't want or know what we don't want.
Ooh, that is a lesson I'm trying to learn actively right now. Duality and how I need both. I
Yeah.
would love if I could only focus on one side of it, but I need both. And because I need both, when I'm getting the one I don't prefer, I have to receive it in a way that's not so resistant.
And here's the thing, our focus dictates what we experience. So when that awful thing comes in, we do acknowledge it, we lift the covers, we see it, and then we choose to shift our focus to the opposite of what is that thing. What happens with some people is they want so bad to not experience that thing that they are angry at it, that they keep talking about it, they keep venting about it. So each time someone talks about what they don't want, what they don't like, they are breathing life into it. And on the other hand, we can't bypass that stuff. We can't Om Shanti, love and light stuff out the way. And so I love therapy. I had a great therapist that got me through the darkness that helped me to appreciate yoga better. So you have to acknowledge what that thing is, understand it, and then you move on from it. But you don't just keep, breathing life into it or just, you
Yes.
know, so.
I think that's something else to learn. How do you acknowledge something? Acknowledgement doesn't mean you settle in it, like you're there. You can acknowledge it and move on. You can acknowledge it, you can recognize it, say how it felt, and then decide to put your energy somewhere else. A quote that I love is, "Your thoughts become your reality."
They
Your
do.
your thoughts become your reality. So understanding that, you have to control your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that negative things are going to happen. It's inevitable. They're going to happen. But how is it going to hit you when it happens?
And you say you're working on it. And all we have to do is be willing to do the work. And that's the work.
Oh,
We just got
oh.
to be willing to do the work. And like, that's the work.
Yes, that kind of leads into my next question. How? I always want to know, how do I do things? How can I do the work? What does it look like? Looking for steps. And I think a piece of what you said is be willing to do it.
Yes. So the hardest part about the process is how easy it is. That when we try to solve a problem, when we are in the heat of the problem, we will never solve the problem in a way that feels good. But if you have a problem and you look at it and you breathe around it, you journal around it, you meditate around it, and then you simply say, I am open to whatever needs to be done to resolve this, then you know what? You go about your day. You go about your day. And then you will notice as you go about your day, you'll get impulses or thoughts. People will say something, recommend a podcast or a book or something that leads you to something, that leads you to something, that leads you to something. And then your answer is there. We as humans, we're always trying to figure something out. And sometimes we just need to push away from the table and go live our joy. And then the answer will come.
Yes, yes, I love that. Stop searching for the answer. Stop searching for the answer and just live your joy. Ooh.
Yeah. Because, I can't, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith said something that every question already has an answer within us that we are unable to see at the time. So whenever a question comes up, even if it's like a technical question out of your wheelhouse, the answer on how to get more familiarized with that, or the answer on how to solve any problem, the steps to it's within. But we're so overwhelmed with the anxiety around not knowing and having to deal with something that we don't feel like we have the tools to navigate. But we always have an answer within. And that leads us to so many wonderful things in our life. Like so many wonderful things. And you've done amazing things in your life. So think about when all of this was just like that'd be nice. Wouldn't that be nice? And then look at you now. It's because you ask the question and you get out of the way so that the answer can come.
You ask the question and you get out of the way. The piece that hits me now is those who don't trust themselves. I'm blessed that I've always trusted myself. I've always trusted my intuition. Even when I wanted to do something that people told me would never work, I was like, nah, I trust myself. But everyone doesn't have that. That's something I'm learning in adulthood. I was like, just what do you think you should do? She's like, I don't know. I was like, what you mean you don't know? What you think you're gonna do? I was like, oh, everyone doesn't have that skill. I don't know if that was a skill. Everyone doesn't have that. I don't even know if I'll call it confidence. Everyone doesn't have
The awareness. They don't have the awareness. And with that, if that desire to have that awareness is really great, even if they're in a negative place, they will find that. They will find it. I was in a very negative place when I was pregnant. I was in a very negative place before yoga. But I always knew that there had to be something more to life. So if the person is willing and open to believe, even if it's just halfway, believe that there's something more to life, then they'll be guided on this path. Now, there's just some people that, honestly, they choose not to. They really take comfort in being where they are. They take comfort in the pain story, that story of trauma, of, things that they dreams deferred and deferred and deferred. But we don't judge them. You live by experience. People are always watching what we're doing. They're always feeling how we are. So one of the things that I'm very intentional about is keeping my energy balanced, because I know I'm sharing this planet with other people and then I can affect them in some way. So for those of us that are aware, standing in our awareness will inspire, it will help. And whether it's on their last breath or not, I believe that before we leave this place, that there is an acknowledgement and an awareness, like, oh, I get it now. Even if it's on your last breath, and it's fine. So for anyone listening, don't judge yourself for where you are and where you're not. Know that you have the power to shift the way that you look at things. And if we're willing to shift the way that we look at things, the things that we're looking at will shift. But don't judge yourself where you are. Don't judge yourself.
Yes, yes. I know that's a hard lesson to learn how to give yourself grace. What is that? What does grace look like? How do you give yourself grace, especially if you are raised in an environment where you never received grace? It's hard for you to know how to give it to yourself.
Giving oneself grace when you were raised in an environment that did not promote that starts with forgiveness. It starts with forgiveness. Like, I believe that forgiveness is the gateway to our peace when we've had so much things that were not peace. So what does forgiveness look like? It looks like self-forgiveness first. I forgive myself for holding on to all of these things that made me feel like a victim. I forgive myself for being angry at myself for holding on to all of these things. I forgive myself for not being where I want to be. So the simple practice, I love simple practices. So the simple practice is to write a long list of things that you forgive yourself for. And only when you feel really good and connected to self-forgiveness, then you extend that forgiveness out to those that really had a hand in framing and shaping the way that you are in this world. But you cannot go out first. And I learned this. I learned this a long time ago. And I have a lot to my story that I choose not to verbalize because I'm not breathing life into it anymore. But what I can say, what I can say is that self-forgiveness, it freed me. It really freed me.
That's so valuable. Learning to forgive yourself. We often think about forgiveness. I want to forgive what everyone else did to me. Yes, that's the step to be done. But the first step is to forgive the decisions that you made for yourself. The things that you held on to, the choices you made. Forgive yourself, because I made tons of bad choices. Tons of bad choices. And I chose to say, okay, what did I learn from that bad choice? How can I see that choice in a way that it made me better and forgive myself for that? Okay, I learned that lesson. Thank you. Okay.
And there is a Hawaiian meditation or prayer called Ho'oponopono. And that is a powerful tool for forgiveness. So Ho'oponopono has you going through these affirmations of forgiveness. And I'll be honest, when I initially did it, it was very uncomfortable because you're telling someone, I love you, I forgive you. I'm like, no, I don't. But you keep saying it. And then you almost get into a trance-like state and something shifts in the energy. Something shifts. So it is it's being willing to take those little baby steps to hold yourself accountable to at least trying. At least trying. We can all do so many wonderful things along our path of healing if we would just be open to trying. And when you find something that doesn't work for you, so say you do yoga, yoga don't work for you, it's okay. Don't go and tell everybody, yoga didn't work, yoga didn't work. Just say, yoga didn't work, moving on. Find something that does.
Yep. Because we all have something, but we're
Yeah.
all different. So
Yeah.
maybe yoga won't work for you. Maybe it won't be. No, Pilates not the same thing. Because I don't want to. I don't want to confuse yoga with just being a activity. But maybe it's walking. Maybe that's your space. Maybe it's going on quiet meditative walks.
Yeah.
Maybe that feels better for you than trying to move your body in certain asanas. Like, but it's something. And
Something.
I feel like the challenge. I think that a bit of my personality. I always want a challenge. I feel like the challenge for myself is trying to figure out what is my thing. What is my thing? So a practice I do is when I'm feeling off, I say, okay, what's happening? Can I figure out what's happening? Then after I figure out what's happening, is it something I need to voice? Is it something I need to say? Do I need to go walking? Do I need to go to yoga class? Ooh, I will never forget the day I really needed some yoga. And I had my son. And I rolled up into your class, and kids are not allowed. I said, they don't. I need yoga. Hey, my baby here with me, please. Let me in.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And he looked at me and said, all right, is he going to get off the mat? Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's amazing when you're so aware of your needs,
Yes,
you're not going to have to figure it out.
yes,
And, I don't know if like the way you were raised that you were told that you have to like stick with one thing and do
yes,
that one thing till you die.
yes.
But the great thing about living fully and freely is that we get to have multiple tools in our toolkit. Like we don't have to stay to one thing. So if you're open to multiple tools, the day that you need it, it's like go to yoga, go now. It's gonna be all right. And a way was made for you. A way was
Yep.
made. So we do that for anyone that's struggling, knowing that if you are just nope, this is what I need and this is what's gonna happen, a way will always be made.
And it's crazy the way that life works that way. A way
Yeah.
will always be made. A
Always.
way will always be made. I feel like we should end the podcast on that. A way will always be made.
Ashe.
Oh gosh, but I have to ask you, is there anything else you want to share? Is there anything else in your spirit that you want to release to those who are listening?
So it's gonna be okay. It's going to be okay. No matter what you see, no matter what's going on around you, believe and know that it's going to be okay. Be patient with yourself, and that will fuel the patience that you have with others. Life is about always reconciling and coming to balance. Don't fight the process. Be fully present to the process. You have what you need to move through what you need to move through. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, this is great. Thank you so much. You are an awesome human being, and this was a joy to spend this time with you today.
Thank you. All right, I'm going.